Great to have you with us. In our first story, Auditor General Daniel Yaudomelevo has said the Economic and Organized Crimes Office, EOCO, should not accept any support from the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation. This follows a revelation which has put the GNPC under fire for 2 million cedis budget donation and sponsorship of some public functions. The memo, dated 29th October 2019 from the Chief Executive to the Board Secretary, indicated that the donations and sponsorship had been approved by the GNPC Board upon a recommendation by the Brand Communication and CSR Committee of GNPC. What you have on the screen now is a full list of the activities that were approved by the board for use of that 2 million cedis. The first is the 2019 Damba Festival preparation, 400,000 Ghana cedis. That goes to the Dagbon State. The second, over a 3-year period, totaling 1.5 million Ghana cedis. That's for environment and greening. There you have those details. Let's stay with this story because the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers, COPEC Ghana, has called on governments to immediately halt and investigate the processes leading to what it describes as a wanton dissipation of monies at the Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC. Executive Secretary of the Chamber, Duncan Amwa, joins us via Skype. Mr. Amwa, you are in disbelief of this spending by GNPC. What's your position exactly?
Good afternoon, and it is quite shocking to come across a 21st century corporation like GNPC, who has established per PNDC Law 64, PNDC Law 84, are expected to lead in exploration, development, production, disposal of petroleum products, core mandates critically set out per their establishment, continuously dissipate oil revenues that the state holds in trust for all of us. If you recall, not in too distant times past, GNPC had arrogated onto itself the challenge of sponsoring Ghana's national team, taking supporters here and there, at a time when we would need some investment into our oil exploration and development. Or you find GNPC wasting our resources on some of these frivolous and vexatious expenditure. And we think that we must immediately enact some legislation that now bars GNPC from the sort of arbitrariness we have seen it conduct itself over the years. Again, Daniel, the totals of all the sums we are seeing is about 2.95 million Ghana cedis. And then you'll be asking, if GNPC is now going into funding what you will call state investigative agencies, EOCO particularly, you and I are quite aware that the board chairperson, GNPC, is currently a subject matter of an EOCO investigation. And so we are tempted to agree with the Auditor General when he says, if you have the same persons investigating GNPC now being donors or benefactors, right, to EOCO, who in this country, who anywhere across the world would trust any investigative outlet? Again, not too long ago when Ghana started oil production, the chiefs and people in the Western region had indicated severally that they needed a share of the oil resource because a larger chunk is taken out of their region. As I speak with you, roads in Western region are in very deplorable conditions. GNPC is not interested. GNPC doesn't seem to even want to invest in things that inure to the benefit of the country, but it picks and chooses. And we are saying that the earlier we enact some legislation to prevent GNPC from undertaking any further arbitrary expenditure of our oil revenue, the better it will be for all of us. This is becoming one too many. And we think that we need to hold this at this point, Daniel.
Now clearly, some concerns have been raised about the expenditure of the GNPC, but this is not all that they will be spending their CSR budget on, is it? There's $43 million of CSR budget. This is just 2 million cedis.
Daniel, in fact, that even leaves you much more worried. If you look at the GNPC Foundation and the fact that scholarships are meant to be given to people who probably to be engaged in some science studies. But as we speak, a whole lot is going on there. And you would ask, to what benefit are these funds being applied to all of us as a country? Is it just a matter of we have too much money as a corporation, and so we apply it as and how we choose? Is it a matter of there's a national development agenda, right? If GNPC had donated to some educational sponsorship campaign, you and I would agree that it is going into developing human resource. Unfortunately, where GNPC applies its corporate social responsibility program leaves a lot to be desired, and we think Parliament must take this up immediately. The Auditor General must also go in there and ensure that whatever oil revenues that they hold in trust for all of us in this country is not dissipated anyhow, as we have seen them do over the years. This is not enough. Daniel.
General Manager Sustainability for GNPC, Kwame Banyako, spoke to us yesterday, and he believes that some of these things are actually in line with GNPC's mandates. For instance, that payment of 1.5 million Ghana cedis to Ochehene was for greening and environment. GNPC does have a responsibility to ensure our environment is maintained, is sustained.
I would have wished he didn't speak so that the memo that we had seen would have remained a possibility, yes or no, true or false. But once he comes out to justify these expenditures, what he's telling all of us, especially those of us at COPEC, is that we do have a lot of revenue or resources as a country, such that people who are even located in forest regions would now have to go and embark upon greening. If we do have too much money already, then you do not need to continuously increase fuel taxes for ordinary to bear. You have money to embark on such projects.
Right. We seem to be finding it difficult establishing that connection with Duncan Amwa. He is Executive Secretary for the Chamber for Petroleum Consumers. We'll try and re-establish that connection if we can. Now, you heard him refer there to the words of the Auditor General, who believes it is not right for the Economic and Organized Crime Office, IOCO, to receive any support from GNPC. He spoke with me on the Super Morning Show earlier.
I'm not very sure whether IOCO has collected money from them or not. But being an oversight institution like mine, I would say no, I won't go near it at all. There is no way that GNPC can come and say, Auditor General, get 20 Ghana cedis, and I will accept it. Because, you see, as an oversight body, you must not only be independent, but must be seen as independent.
Okay.
So if an oversight body is partaking in the booty and goes back to provide oversight, who will trust them? They may even do professional work, but they've compromised, jeopardized their independence, which I think has to be avoided. I'm not very sure whether they collected it, so that's why I say I'm assuming what you are saying is correct. But I think that is not a way to go. For instance, if I'm partaking from the money in GNPC and I go back and audit them, will you believe the findings that I bring? Will you say that I'm very independent in the opinion that I may be expressing? That is why we should not go there. Let me make a quick point here. The board has right to make decisions. But one of the things the board must have to understand that they can only make decisions within the ambit of the law. The Constitution, which is the supreme law of Ghana, under Article 178, says you can use public funds only the way that is prescribed or allowed by the law. So maybe during an audit, we interrogate to find out whether the laws of GNPC allows the money to be used that way. If not, then I think it may not be a right thing. So yes, there are administrative structures like boards and management, etc., who take decision. But one thing I would like to advise them about is that every time they should try and make sure they are within the law. If the law does not permit it, then I think it's a no.
If my understanding of the law is that I can use this for cultural diversity, or I can use it to promote Ghanaian lifestyle in some way, then I can go ahead and make such a donation.
So if I think I'm promoting cultural diversity by giving the money to my family or friends for personal business, should that be allowed? So that is why the Supreme Law of this country, the Constitution, has put in place the requirement that the court or the Supreme Court interpret the Constitution for all of us. So if in the course of our audit, for instance, and we don't agree, we are going to disallow the expenditure and surcharge and tell you to go to court and let's go and get interpretation from the court. Because if we allow individuals to interpret the law, I think it's going to be an anarchy. Everybody has got his selfish interest, and for that matter may say that is national interest. In fact, when people are appropriating public funds to their personal use, they see it as serving national interest. So that is a bit disturbing.
Away from GNPC, Mr. Domelevo also says the Yoko investigation into his office is a witch hunt. The Economic and Organized Crime Office is looking into alleged procurement breaches in the purchase of vehicles worth 6.2 million cedis by the audit service. Mr. Domelevo believes he's simply paying the price for fighting corruption.
It becomes a valid liability against him.
Okay. A government said that they would have loved it for the finance ministry to go to parliament to respond as normally is done, but that's why they instead held a press conference to respond to this, suggesting that perhaps they should have been allowed to respond to some of these.
Very interesting position. Very, very interesting. The audit observation was issued to Ministry of Finance on 25th of January 2019. And you cannot just get up and ratify, because it is as a result of an investigation report. So he said, okay, then Daniel, if that is not a problem, we can come and investigate and see whether things were done right. I allowed it. So PPA came and did their investigation. When they came to do their investigation, they at the end wrote a report. Very interesting. Anyone who has a copy of that report, page 8 of the report, they made recommendation to audit service to apply for ratification. The Public Procurement Board team that came to do the audit report, the investigation, recommended that Ghana Audit Service should apply to PPA Board for ratification. Then we applied for the ratification. Say, okay, give us the ratification. Then the board writes to say, no, the right to ratify is at the discretion of the board. It's not for you to request for it. So the reason why we will not give you is because you have asked for it. In fact, if I knew this was going to come, I would have come with their letter. They gave the reason. They said the reason why we will not give it is that it is not a right that an auditee or an someone being investigated should ask for. But it is at our discretion. We have to give you that lesson. And so what kind of logic is this? You send a team to come and do an investigation. They finish and they say, apply for ratification. I apply for the ratification. They say, because you've applied for ratification, I'm not going to give you. Even though they said they were not going to ratify, interestingly, they went ahead and said that, not just said, they directed that audit service should take immediate steps to pay for the cars. They directed, listen to me, I didn't say that they advise us or they urge us. They directed that we should take immediate steps to pay for the car. In financial management and in law, in substance, they have ratified, from my point of view. Because under Section 90 of the Public Procurement Act, they have the right to cancel the whole procurement process. That is one. Mm-hmm. 2, they can nullify the contract. That is 2. 3, they can ratify. 4, they can give any instructions that is necessary. Mm-hmm. So if you nullify the contract, it can't be paid for, isn't it?
Yes, it
If
can't
you
be paid
cancel the whole process, it can't be paid for. Is that not it?
No, it can't.
So if you say pay for it, it means that you have accepted it. So any infraction therein have been ratified from my point of view by PPA. So
now, Mr. Domelevo has justified a $1 million surcharge to the senior minister that he led governments to pay a private firm, Cole & Associates, $1 million for no work done. Yao Asafo in a letter addressed to the Auditor General dated October 8, 2019, sources says the record straight on the matter involving the private firm. He said approval for a request for single source procurement for professional services was obtained contrary to claims by the Auditor General that he failed to seek approval from the procurement authority. But speaking on the Super Morning Show a while ago, Mr. Domelevo explained the response from the senior minister sought to explain that some work is being done rather than his questions, which pertain to why full amount was paid to the company when work was not done. Away from that, Assistant Commissioner of Police ACP Dr. Benjamin Argo Joe is in BNI custody following his arrest. Dr. Argo Joe has been charged with abetments to commit treason for his alleged involvement in a coup plot. ACP Argo Joe's lawyer, Martin Pebu, speaking to me on News Desk, said the charge against his client is shambolic. He explained the charge is merely based on WhatsApp messages.
As of yesterday night, at the time we parted company, yes, he was well. He was disappointed, really disappointed that in Ghana, which is a state much touted for its democratic credentials, he could be detained for comments he made on WhatsApp, a social media platform. So he's very disappointed. Very disappointed. You know, Daniel, the context is that he's a citizen. He only made a comment that Ghana has conditions ripe for an Arab Spring if there is a trigger. No, Daniel, what is strange about it? All many citizens, including myself, we all said this in the context of exhorting government to take steps to provide more employment opportunities for the unemployed. So I really don't see how this, strung together with other very trifling, can constitute abetment of treason. No, it's very symbolic. We're here for about 7 hours. During the interrogations, these were the comments he was confronted with. That sometime in January, he made those comments that Ghana has conditions ripe for, an Arab Spring. That's the sheet anchor. That is the strongest allegation they have against him. The second one is that as part of the scheme to conduct or to undertake the coup d'etat, he gave guidance to the task group on how to organize a lawful demonstration. These things are things that citizens is allowed to participate. And don't forget, the task group is it's a philanthropic organization. They formed it to, undertake philanthropy to help. They've been undertaking various outreaches in various parts of Ghana. So he joined that, okay, he could also contribute his quota. This is by no means participation or encouraging a coup d'etat.
Now, tension is mounting in the Peki traditional area in the South Dai district of the Volta region ahead of a Supreme Court ruling on a disputed land boundary case between the Pekis and the Cheetos. According to the Adonte Ihene of Peki traditional area, Togbe Ayim Mode the 6th. This follows news of Cheeto chiefs mobilizing to celebrate because the court's ruling scheduled for November 6, 2019 will be in their favor. Togbe Ayim described the actions of the Cheeto chiefs as in contempt of court and undermining of the authority of the Supreme Court. He therefore appealed to the Chief Justice to constitute a committee to inquire into the contemptuous acts by the Cheeto chiefs.
The Supreme Court will give a ruling on Peki Cheeto land case on Wednesday, the 6th November 2019. The ruling will determine whether the substantive case before the Land Court 4, that is the High Court, will be continued and completed or not, or whether the 1979 Court of Appeal judgment, of which was cancelled by the Supreme Court ruling of 30th of March 1992, will be brought back to life since it was struck off for lack of jurisdiction. On Sunday, 15th September 2019, information from credible sources came to the attention of the people of Peki that a delegation of chiefs led by the chief of Cheeto, Togbe Gobo Dake, the 12th, went in convoy of buses to a church service of the Apostles' Revelation Society, ARS, at the Redob, Peki at 10:55 a.m. to inform the congregation categorically and positively that the expected ruling scheduled for 6th of November 2019 will be in their favor. This development has caused stir, anxiety, tension, and suspicion.
Now, the KMA Love and Insura FM sanitation enforcement team has started a house-to-house campaign narrowing in on insanitary conditions in the metropolis. The move started with a visit to Kwadaso Estate and part of Sofo Line in Kumasi. 10 houses found to have connected their wastewater to an overflowing septic tank were sanctioned and food sold close to drains seized. Love FM's Erastus Sasaridonko has more.
The team started the traditional house-to-house sanitation enforcement drive from Kwadaso Estate under the Nshayasu sub-metro of the KMA. Together with the local sub-metro team, we stormed the vicinity. It was detected that over 10 houses are connected to this septic tank, which is full and leaking its contents into the open drain.
Close to say nuisance and I say the problem will bar. And once a year, one casa, Utria last time say, media, Utria, now Utria, no, now.
One of the landlords was confronted and made to remove the exit pipe and seal the vent.
Actually, I'm not the owner of this house. I'm just a caretaker.
But do you use this particular tank?
I came to meet this septic tank here for a long time. And the problem has been there for a long time.
Collection of money for the dislodging is a problem. So I'm expecting every house to construct a tank, as other houses have done. To construct a tank for their septic tank, for their house. Are you with me? Yes. So at least by next week, I'll come around and ensure that the tank is dislodged.
In this house, we found the landlord has turned the whole place into a chop bar without the requisite license or food vendor certificate.
Reason being, I was there, no, I was there a corporate hospital. I was there, baby, or no, or you assembly who said, baby, or you are not money, but we don't fear for any problem. But what time of public need I was there to me call who said, yeah, we know. So, and I'm saying, I'm calling it. You said you are in our town.
The food was being prepared close to this leaking liquid toilet. The whole item was seized. The overgrown weeds in front of this house attracted the team. The elderly landlord was given notice to clear the weeds in 2 days or face legal action.
Yeah, we've come to your house. The frontage is weedy inside. But why? Yeah, tag doctor is on to 20 na. Amalabasa. It's a my tenant no fear. They should weed the frontage and then weed the intent.
In this slum village springing up at Sofo Line, one of the slum dwellers had constructed a commercial makeshift toilet. The team demolished the structure immediately, and notice was left for the owner to appear before the environmental office of the KMA.
Away from sanitation issues, Dean of the School of Agriculture, University of Cape Coast, says removing agricultural science from the school curriculum is responsible for lack of interest in the sector among students. Professor Elvis Asari-Bediako says if the subject is separate from integrated science, students will develop an interest in it. He spoke to JoyNews on the sidelines of the 15th edition of the Regional University Forum for Capacity Building for Stakeholders in Science.
My advice will be to start agric at the basic school, to reintroduce the agricultural science at the basic school. I am told the new reforms has some bit of that, but what I really want is agric science should be agric science. We should really emphasize agric science, right from the basic school, so that because Ghana is an agrarian nation, most African countries are agrarian nations, and therefore we must start cultivate the habit of agriculture. And so, one of the policies that I would want to advocate for, apart from introducing agriculture at both DHS and then SHS, will also be some policies that prevent, maybe in schools, punishing students using weeding and all that. We used to have this concept of school gardening and all this, we may also be able to form clubs in school, some true policies, agricultural clubs, producing crops and all that right at even the basic level.
Professor Bediako also wants the Ministry of Agriculture to revive the recruitment of agric students.
Some of the reasons are that when you finish, if you complete any agricultural institution, being universities or agriculture training institutions, they are agricultural colleges, Kwadaso Agricultural College or Agricultural College, Damango and all that, owned by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture. They used to appoint them immediately after completion. Now it is not so. When you finish, there's no automatic place for you. And so the interest has waned.
Now, the Regional University Forum for Capacity Building will bring together stakeholders in science from 119 universities in 38 African countries, converging at the University of Cape Coast starting from the 2nd to the 6th of December 2019. You're still live on JoyNews today. Coming up in business, securities industry cleanup expected to happen soon. Daryl Kwao has the details. Stay with us.